Mabuhay, everyone. This is Reverend Reg, and today is June 9, 2021, and it's 9 a.m. here in Manila, Philippines. Today, I am very grateful and excited because one of our professors in University of Metaphysics made time for us tonight. It's actually, I think it's 6 p.m. in her area in Sedona, Arizona. And in the healing world, even here in the Philippines, when we talk about Arizona, a lot of people actually rave about it because of the energy vortex of the place. And actually, one of the reasons why I'm very excited tonight is because a lot of people that I have met and they do tarot card readings are able to explain it their own way, of course. It has its own beauty, especially when people are asking for divine guidance as to what to do with certain circumstances in their lives. But Reverend Lyn Williams, my professor in University of Metaphysics, she has a different flavor into it, and somehow she's able to discuss things in an all-encompassing way. And I do love that kind of work because for me, it's very helpful to a client to be able to see what's happening in their lives from that dynamic, from that frame of mind. And just to give you all a brief background of my professor in the university, Reverend Lyn Williams has been helping people achieve success, wellness, and happiness for over 44 years. Her clients are often in the midst of major life changes, seeking direction toward fulfillment of their goals and dreams. Her specialty is providing healing techniques, clarity, and enlightening support so her clients can heal, overcome obstacles, and solve problems. She bases her coaching and counseling on methods of personal transformation and spiritual guidance through uplifting, inspiring, and positive means. Her experience in several modalities include energy healing, Reiki, and emotional freedom techniques, as known as tapping, crystal healing, tarot and angel oracle readings, and meditation training. She is an Usui Reiki master, certified crystal energy healer, and a certified tarot advisor. Her services are provided in person, online, via Zoom, and by phone. She's also a speaker and mentor. She holds degrees from the University of Metaphysics and the University of Sedona and is an ordained minister with the International Metaphysical Ministry. So, good evening, Reverend Lyn.
Good evening, good morning, I guess, depending on whether you're here or there. It's nice to be with you, Reverend Rich.
Yes, thank you so much, Reverend Lyn. And Dr. Ro Guzman is watching all the way from Manila, Philippines. And
Oh, yes.
yes, and Reverend Lyn, I love your work as a tarot reader because every now and then there are discussions in our group chat. I always notice that your perspective is way, way different from all the card readers that I have worked with in the past. And I don't know if the years that you've been working as a metaphysical minister has to do with that insight because I just see that when people ask questions during the group chat, yours is I don't know how you call it exactly, but it's very profound and all encompassing. So I just want to know, where do you draw that kind of wisdom?
Well, yeah, the 44 years of studying with the university actually has everything to do with it. Um, when I first started studying with the university, everyone has psychic ability, so that's like it's no surprise there. But for some people, they are very active and profound, and then there's a spectrum from there all the way down to those who don't even know what psychic abilities are. Um, and so it's a matter of whether they're awake in your consciousness or not. It's like, pretty much everybody can sing, but not everybody can sing well. And not everybody can, even some people barely carry a tune. And then you've got those professional, talented people that are so great they can, bring tears to your eyes. And everything that we as humans do is kind of like that. So when I first started reading tarot cards, and one thing I want to make sure that people understand is the tarot and psychic readings are completely separate from metaphysics and the studies that we do at the university. The studies we do at the university are focused on spiritual growth and awakening, and learning the truth about who we are, about the universe, about, how to live, how to work your life, changing your mindset and thoughts and energy so your life is going to be produce results more like what you want, as opposed to all the drama and chaos many of us end up with. And so when I started studying metaphysics 44 years ago, that was my goal, was to improve my life. You mentioned something earlier about the fact that I talk about my reason for seeking this course of study was because I wanted to lose weight. And it was, I had seen an article in a magazine that doesn't exist anymore. It's called New Woman, but there was an article about think yourself thin. And this was back in the 70s, late 70s. And yeah, and New Thought, there was no such thing as New Thought. There was barely metaphysics. And so as I was trying to understand, well, what's metaphysics and how do you think yourself thin, I got the phone book, which a lot of young people probably don't even know what a phone book is. Gosh, I'm dating myself. But anyway, it's a big book of phone numbers for the entire area, city, county, or wherever you may live. And anyway, so I looked up metaphysics, and Dr. Masters, the founder of our university, happened to have an ad in the phone book. It's called the Yellow Pages, listings of businesses. And anyway, I was curious, so I called and I spoke with a very nice lady who actually stayed with the university from way back then. I understand she passed away maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But anyway, she was a very nice lady, and she answered all my questions. And she said, yes, there is a way to do that. You can think yourself thin, but you need some instructions and planning. And Dr. Masters was just about to start his meditation dynamics class, which was 8 weeks of studying meditation. And so I just jumped right in, and the rest was history. But I didn't start to grow until like maybe 10, 11 years ago. And so that was a total new addition to everything else I was doing, the coaching, the healing, the speaking, and what have you, the mentoring at the university. The tarot came about as a result of the downturn of the 2000s. I used to be an IT professional. I did programming and computer design, but I retired in 2004, and then the economy crashed, and then several years later, I needed to go back to work, and I was much older, and I couldn't find a job. And I mean, the whole shebang. Anyway, so then it was a matter of, well, now what am I going to do? I still want to make good money, but I don't want to go back to school. And a friend of mine suggested that I start doing psychic readings, which I didn't even know how to read cards. I didn't know I was a psychic. And through the yeah, I didn't. I was saying, well, how am I going to be a psychic? I don't know how to do psychic readings. And he said, you've been doing psychic readings on me ever since we've been friends. And I didn't realize that, but he said, there are times when you will ask me questions about something I've said or something I'm doing, and I wonder, how did you know that? So anyway, that was kind of the beginning, and through a series of coincidences, if you want to call them that, his suggestion, followed by being introduced to an online ultimate tarot reading class that my Reiki master had just created, and then getting an email a few weeks later telling me there was a job opening at this psychic service online, and I got hired, and that was how I started.
Awesome.
But it took many years for me to develop my style. So what I was working on by saying all of this to say is, psychic abilities, we have the main understanding of like clairvoyance and clairaudience and clairsentience, claircognizance, and what have you. And we basically consider them based on the definitions, the way the public sees them. People see visions, people hear voices, people see ghosts, people feel things, and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yes, that's true. But every psychic, professional, everyday, or somebody that doesn't even know that they're psychic, will express their psychic gifts differently. They're like fingerprints. So the way I do readings and the way I interpret the cards based on my higher self and my spiritual understanding is unique to me, because in order for me to learn how to read the cards, I had to look at it from the standpoint of what are they trying to tell me, and to get my intuition to interpret. So it automatically took a more spiritual advisor tone than
Sounds.
fortune teller. I'm more of a spiritual advisor. I'm not a fortune teller.
Thank you
So
for
there's some things I won't do, some things I don't do, because I'm more of an advisor than a just a psychic.
Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Lynn. And something that I want to ask you, because a lot of people want that word spiritual clarified. People get the impression that when you're spiritual, you're not supposed to be mad, you're supposed to be a good person. And then I was thinking to myself, I don't think that being spiritual means being a pushover,
No,
because
it doesn't.
people think that just because you're spiritual, you're not supposed to get mad, and you're supposed to be a pushover and just say yes all the time.
Well,
I want your
the first thing
opinion
I
on
would
it.
say to those people is, when's the last time you read your Bible? Because being spiritual means being authentic and being like a truth seeker, or being someone who likes to live within the light and do things that are based in compassion and unconditional love and acceptance. And that's what most holy books teach. But we get it all turned around and distorted as the information comes down the line, because people forget Jesus had a temper. There are stories in
Yes.
the Bible about Jesus getting angry. He was human. And you cannot separate the man from the spiritual being that came to earth to bring us love, light, and to teach us the way. He was a way shower, but he was a human being too. And so he was born into a body that had all these human weaknesses, flaws, and frailties, just like any other human being. It was his consciousness that elevated him to a different level. And that's a whole nother topic. But when you are a spiritual person, you don't necessarily have to be a religious person. There's a huge difference between being religious and being spiritual. A lot of religious people are capable of doing some horrendous things and being horrendous people, as long as they go to church on Sunday and ask for forgiveness and pray and say, I didn't mean it. And then right up Monday morning, they're right back out there doing dirt. Those are not spiritual people. Those are religious people. And then you get people who are consciously beginning to understand that I'm a spiritual being. I'm a soul having a physical experience. I'm not a body that happened to pluck a soul out of the sky to bring it in to give me life. That's not it. That's backwards. So when you consider spirituality, consider living in a place where you show that compassion and unconditional love for others, that you are not judging and condemning and bullying and doing a whole lot of the things that people do on the internet today because nobody can see them. And if you're someone, and I'm saying this and I'm stepping on your toes, then don't go, how dare you say that, or don't get offended. What you need to do with that information is stop and think, oh, is that really what I'm doing? And if I am, then how do I change that? That's being taking the spiritual perspective of, oh yeah, that's a flaw of mine. So how do I change it? The religious perspective would be, you don't know me. Why would you say something like
Yes.
that? That's the ego that comes out. So, when you are thinking about whether you are a spiritual being, and I'm not judging or condemning one way or another. I'm just saying, when people are curious about what it means to be spiritual versus what it means to be religious religion, and forgive me, don't send Reverend Reg a bunch of trolling feedback about what I said about your religion. I am not criticizing your religion one way or another. If that works for you, fine. I was born and raised Baptist, so you can't get more religious than that. But the point is, when you find yourself doing all of the rituals and the services and the praying and the singing, and yet and still your life is full of drama, trauma, and you can't get along with anybody and everybody, you hate everybody and this, that, and the other, then you need to stop thinking about your spirituality, because it's your soul and your consciousness that are in trouble. And that does not mean that you're running to church all the time or begging to be forgiven all the time. That's not enough. It's more what's in your heart. And when you have a pure heart, when you can be patient with other people, it doesn't mean you won't ever make a mistake, because you're going to make a bunch of them. But it means your attitude about it is different. And it means that you do work on trying to be better. And that's about the best we can do.
Yeah. Thank you for talking about the soul, Reverend Lyn, because I think that you mentioned it earlier. It's that aspect of your readings and that aspect of your counseling that makes it different. Because when we talk about the soul, and I personally experienced it from you when I think that was 2 years ago, and I was going through something, and then I brought it up for discussion.
Mhm.
And then you talked about, it's not like it's a progressive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that you're supposed to get things done, because on the soul level, it doesn't know any type of progression that way. And you talked about somehow the soul goes into a spiral, something like that. And can you please expand more on it, Reverend Lyn? Because majority of my listeners are still very linear in their thinking. And we know in spirituality, it's not actually the case.
I'm a little confused about your question. When you say to talk about the soul, as you mentioned the spiral, um,
For
are you,
example,
huh? Yeah, explain
for
a little bit more.
example, for example, Reverend Lyn, when you go through an experience, let's say you're taking the course right now for University of Metaphysics, the bachelor's degree. Ideally, people would think, okay, I took the bachelor's degree and I'm supposed to experience ease and grace because I took this degree.
Mhm.
And then somewhere in the middle of taking the course, they go through periods of soul stretching where
Oh,
your faith,
that's a good description. I like that.
because I don't believe that your faith is getting tested, but I feel for me that your conviction about something is being strengthened.
Hmm.
So when I was studying the bachelor's degree, and although not a lot of people very close to me were amenable to it, and because they weren't amenable to it, I just wouldn't show that I was studying it, so I would study at night.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so anyway, because of that attitude, then naturally I would wake up later than usual. People would say that I was happy go lucky, but I was just really preparing at night when nobody was actually listening to me, that I was reading it and studying it. Because for me, Reverend Lyn, there came a point in my life when I wanted more elevated conversations. There was a part of me that wanted more than just hearing the usual. So because of that aspect of myself, and because I didn't feel that there were enough people close to me that I could actually talk to, then I found it more convenient for me to study at night and then just reserve those discussions for friends who are like-minded.
Hmm.
But for
Hmm.
people whose awareness is only in the third dimension, they think that you're impractical and you're
Hmm.
happy-go-lucky, especially because in spirituality, with what Dr. Masters taught, I live confidently each day, knowing
Hmm.
that the source of my prosperity is God working through me and directing me. So living from that frame of mind, I would listen to hunches from the universe, what to do next. Unlike before taking the course, you would go into autopilot mode and then just keep acting, but you know, for a time when you study the course, there's a part of you that wants to stop running like a headless chicken. So, something like that, Reverend Lynn. Of course, you take the course, it's for personal growth and development. And we talk about the aspect of spirituality, your spiritual awareness expanding and what's happening to you. And when you talk about spiritual awareness, other people are not able to actually grasp that one.
Right. And that's what happens to a lot of people on the early stages of their spiritual path. If they're in a relationship and in their family, sometimes when the person starts to study, so much starts to change and they start to feel so much better and light bulbs start coming on and all that. But because the other family members or friends are not having that same enlightenment, that same transformation happen for them, they look at you and all of a sudden they don't know who you are. And it's because your energy vibration has started to increase, and you're already shedding a lot of that heavy energy of, as you mentioned, third dimension. But I wanted to make a comment. You had said something earlier about the soul and about kind of like being on a spiral, or thinking that when you start studying courses like this, it means that you're going to have this consciousness awakening, and that the more you study, the better things get, so that your life becomes perfect. And that's kind of like a misunderstanding or a misguided understanding of what it is.
Mm.
It doesn't make your life perfect, and you won't get the how do I explain this? Once you step on the path and start
Mm.
studying these metaphysical principles, and whether it's with the university, our university system, or someone else's, when you step into that metaphysical path and it starts to transform you from within, um, it's a process. It's like once you light that pilot, it's an eternal flame, and it's a process that you can't put out. Even if you walk away from it, it still continues to burn, but you don't have the input of information, so maybe you don't learn as much as fast. But even if you stay and immerse yourself in these studies, which is what a lot of us have done, life still has to happen. And by that, I mean, you learn this information to help you manage your life better, to help you have better thoughts and emotions, so you can have better life experience. We help you to learn how to think better and do the proper um, affirmations and other things that you can do to manifest the life that you want, to bring prosperity, to help with healing. There's all kinds of things that we can do once we understand the principle. It's like, everybody can drive a car once they learn how, but very few, if ever any, people jump in the car the first time and know what they're doing. You can also drive your car backwards if you choose. You can literally drive your car looking in the rear view mirror, or turn around and drive with one hand. If you chose to drive your car that way, you could go anywhere there's a road. You can drive it backwards. It's hard. It doesn't make sense. And it's a little uncomfortable, but you can do it. So think of living life without the proper truth and information about how life works, who you are, what your soul is, what the creator is, or God, whatever name you use for creator, to get a better understanding of what that relationship is, you being a co-creator with spirit. That's learning how to drive your car the right way. So when we think about learning this course of information, and we do the work and we start having some success and we see improvements and we're feeling better and we're meditating and things are going well, and then a crisis happens.
Yes.
Well, the crisis is the life experience, because remember, our the reason why we are in body is to have life experiences, either for karmic cleansing, healing, and experiencing, or because we come here to have fun and all of that as well, but the main reason here is to serve a purpose of contributing to the well-being of humanity and the planet, and to have life experiences. And like I said, whether it's karmic cleansing and healing from something that happened in another lifetime, another experience, and something you need to balance out, or you may be here to learn some lessons. Your soul may have decided, I want to know what it's like to be in a relationship with my soulmate partner. And so you come in, and at some point in this relationship, you meet the soulmate, and you have one of those successful relationships we all dream about. Maybe you come in and you say, I'd like to know what it's going to be like to have a health issue that confines me to a wheelchair. So maybe you were born with a condition where you don't learn to walk, you can't walk, or something happens and you lose your ability to walk. So you can have that experience. Your soul can get that experiencing of, this is what it feels like to have, to not be able to walk. And you really can't learn something and or have an experience that's complete until you experience it, meaning you got to be it, you got to do it. And the best way to do that in life is to live that experience. So when we come into metaphysics or some kind of spiritual study like this, what we learn is how to cope with the challenges of that particular lifetime, because it's going to be difficult. How to love yourself and be a compassionate, loving person instead of a bitter, damaged, angry person, which some people are. You learn
Yes.
things like unconditional love, and you learn to be creative so that you can find solutions for some of the unique challenges that will be presented to you because of what your soul's life choice was. Maybe you come in because you coming in and you say, I want to help mankind. I want to be a scientist and, discover a cure for some kind of cancer. And so you're born into this experience, and maybe your introduction as a child that one of your parents or sibling has cancer. So you get to see and witness the experience of what they're going through. And then you grow up and become this dedicated doctor, scientist, and do research, and boom, you produce a cure for some kind of cancer. So those are the real reasons we're here.
And
But
I love that I love that you mentioned the word dedicated,
yes.
because I love that the University of Metaphysics is very grounded in its teachings, and
Mm-hmm.
you can literally apply your spiritual capacity over your third plane issues, like, you have a health concern, you have a money concern, you have concerns about your business. And Reverend Lynn, I want to emphasize what you mentioned about the word dedication, because it's an overlooked quality of making metaphysics work in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, a lot of people got introduced to, you just have to think things through and that's it. Things are going to get better. But we know that you have to put the effort day in and day out. That you basically, for me, one of the things that really helped me was the 20-minute meditation and literally changing my narrative. Because one of the things that I was observing in the course dynamic was, uh, if you notice the words that we use in metaphysics, the words are geared towards empowerment
Mm-hmm.
and gracefully releasing what doesn't serve you anymore. And like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned last Sunday, you want to be able to simplify the narrative. Maybe Dr. Masters had it several decades ago that it was a bit formal,
Mm-hmm.
and you wanted to bring down the affirmations. And we know that it's going to be part of a person's daily narrative if you decide to actually make it simpler for people to digest it for their everyday use. And Reverend Lynn, I'm very sure you can talk about the importance of changing a person's narrative. The casual language that people use. People can be oblivious to the fact that even your casual language can empower you or totally make your situation worse than it is now if you don't
Oh
use it
yeah.
wisely.
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, all you have to think about is the difference between the way you feel when somebody says, I hate you, versus I love you. And you see the power of words. Words are creative. The sound, when we say a word, we think word, and we kind of in our minds think some kind of, we see a bunch of letters because that's what the way we learned it in school. What they didn't teach us, and this is part of the spiritual study that you learn when you get into metaphysics, is that the words you say have are made of sound. We have syllables. We have, all kinds of things that we do with our mouths and our tongues to create these sounds. And our ears and brains recognize those sounds as words. And we've been taught that these certain sounds as words have certain meaning. Everything is energy. And so sound is energy. And so when you speak your word, that sound out into the universe, it goes into the ethers, which is I guess you could just say the air around, for lack of a better word, and we don't want to try to describe that now. But when you speak your word out into the law, out whether you believe the laws of the 7 universal laws or not, law of attraction is one of them. It's design. It's an energy field. It's a template that says, I'm waiting to catch this vibration, like a spider waits to feel the vibration of a bug on its web, and it knows it caught something, so then it goes to see what it is. The law of attraction waits to feel the vibration of your emotions, your words, and your thoughts. And when it feels that energy, it vibrates, and it says, oh, they're sending me a request for this. So it mixes up the equivalent of what you're thinking, feeling, and saying, and it mixes this cocktail up and sends it back to you. And then you say, wait a minute, this is not what I wanted. And the universe says, this is what you asked for. So when you're thinking about your thoughts and what you say and your behavior and all that energy that you're sending out there, you're ordering from the cosmic kitchen. And yes, your words and your thoughts have power. And that's what either empowers you, because if you're being successful and you're doing the things you need to do so that you can learn how to properly create the life you want, you will receive it. But if you're mixing up all kinds of negativity and bitter thoughts and jealousy and, can't stand so-and-so down the street because they just got a new car and yours is, 15 years old. When you got all that drama, trauma stuff going on, you just imagine that every time you say, I want a new car and I'm going to save some money to get it, and then you have all this bitterness and all this dark energy and jealousy, what you're ending up doing is putting water on the passion of the desire that you're trying to make happen. It's just like getting fired up to get this new car and then pouring water on it because you're jealous of your neighbor. It's basically that
Amazing.
simple.
Amazing
That
explanation,
simple.
Reverend Lyn.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's such a powerful thing that you mentioned earlier. You want to study how life works.
Mhm.
And at the same time, part of how life works, I want to connect that to what you just mentioned about the 7 universal laws,
Mhm.
and how thoughts, feelings, emotions, and words combined with, learning how life works and understanding that there are universal laws, and that you have this thoughts, feelings, and words combined, all that three. When you put them together, it will create a life experience for you. And so many people are actually oblivious about it. So what are the 3 things that we should actually focus on, realizing that there's a certain dynamic that this universe works, that's affecting the way a person experiences life? And then the second thing is, what's the number one universal law that we have to be mindful of? And the third is, how can a person become more, just become wiser in the use of their language?
Well, wait a minute, slow down now. You forget that my memory is not as good as it used to be. I'm an old lady now, and
Oh,
as I've been studying metaphysics for 44 years. I've been around for a minute, so I don't remember all that. But I'll try to answer questions as best I can. First thing, I'll just address the 7 universal laws first, because these
awesome.
are important, and a lot of people don't even know they exist. people have heard of the law of attraction, but basically it was because of the book, The Secret, the movie, The Secret, and some of those ministers and speakers talked about The Secret. They talked about a whitewashed version of the universal laws, and they only mentioned a couple of the whitewashed version of manifestation. I'm sorry, and they only talked about a couple of the universal laws: the law of attraction and the law of abundance. And I believe that was the only ones that they talked about, but there's seven of them. One is the law of attraction. There's the law of deliberate creation, which is something about what you think about is what you bring to you. That's deliberate creation. In other words, I want this, so I'm going to do what I need to do to create it. Then there's the law of allowing. This is getting rid of resistance and allowing situations to be with whatever they are, without you controlling the outcome or needing it to be the way you want it. It's just allowing the world to be. Then there's the law of abundance, which most people know what that is, and the law of pure potentiality, which is saying there are no limits. The universe is only full of potential, and if you tap into it, it works for you. Then there's the law of detachment, which says I'm not attached to the outcomes. I want this, and I'm willing to trust the universe to produce what's best for me, and I'm okay with that, because generally speaking, when you're trying to create something and you ask for assistance from the universe, when it comes back to you, if you're following the protocols, when it comes back to you, it's better than you expected. But with the law of attraction, because it works on energy vibration only, we have so much control and impact on it, just for that very reason, because we're like little batteries, little ever-ready bunny batteries. We go on and on and on and on, sending out this energy, vibrating these frequencies, telling the universe what we want and what we don't want. And then
Yes.
being disappointed when what we don't want shows up, because very often our emotions for what we don't want are stronger than our emotions and focused intention on what we do want. And so that's why we end up with stuff we don't want more often. It's because we're so intense. I don't want that. Oh God, I hate this, and whatever. and then when we're trying to create something we want, we're kind of, maybe lukewarm in the way we set our affirmations, or the feeling of I hope this happens, which is way different than this is going to happen. I'm going to, what do I need to do? I'm willing to take action. I'm willing to follow through. Those are the kinds of energies that support the creation of your desired outcome. But it's a process, and it takes learning, and it takes a lifetime of practice.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, we never get perfect. You will always make mistakes. You will always have setbacks, detours, and things that just don't work out. So what you look for is you look at the experience. If it didn't work out, it's like, okay, well, is there a better way to do this? Maybe this isn't the right thing for me. Maybe this isn't the right person. Whatever answers you come up with, you have to be willing to, to allow that to be the highest and best good for you.
Yes. And I
Is that your
love
little
that
doggy?
it's the neighbor's dog
Oh,
barking. And actually, I wanted to emphasize what you mentioned, that, the way we also speak the words may not vibrate the frequency of the experience. If
Mm-hmm.
you're lukewarm about your affirmations, then you also get lukewarm results.
Mm-hmm.
So I also noticed that to be true. And I love that you mentioned it, because I realized, Reverend Lynn, that a lot of the things that I feel are uh, being an area of growth for me are also belief systems in my life that I didn't really have a supportive belief system about it. Like in the past, I realized when it comes to family concerns that I didn't grow up with a family that really nurtured the idea that you can prosper by doing what you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like this generational gap that I have to overcome, because majority of the collective narrative in my family is that you have to work hard for the thing that's available right now, and not the thing that makes your heart expand and feel joyful about. But
Well, and that's the
then,
general
yeah,
philosophy of our society. We've all been taught that, which is why so many people never really get to this level of success that they really want, because that belief is there that it probably won't happen. I'm only limited to what's available now. But think of how many people are out there creating new products, new ways of doing things, new ideas, companies. If they were limited only to what's currently available, we would never have progress. There wouldn't be anything new. So thinking out of the box and expanding your consciousness to imagine, I mean, the universe is full of ideas. Every idea that you see come into form on the planet came out of the universe, and somebody's consciousness, somebody's brain plucked it out, maybe several people's brains plucked it out, put it together, and then introduced it to the public. And some ideas go over bigger than others. But the truth is, even Dr. Master says all you really need is one really good idea and everything changes for you. But it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't mean you'll just have one good idea. You may get several. But you do have to be willing to follow the divine guidance you get, and also to not give up. If something doesn't work out and you think about it and decide, well, maybe this wasn't such a good idea, well, there's another idea waiting to take its place. And what you learned from the experience, you can use it later on down the line. And so none of your experiences are a waste of time or lost energy, because take the lesson and the blessing and move on.
yes, thank you for sharing that, Reverend Lynn. And Coco, Lux, Diane Clancy, and Jane are actually watching us right now. And
Oh, really?
Coco was saying, I love Reverend Lynn. I'm a doctoral student of University of Sedona. Diane says she's watching all the way from Michigan. And
Oh, well, wow.
Jane just catched us live right now. So Dr. Rowe also affirmed what you said. The universe is full of ideas. I like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're everywhere. And you
Yes.
have unlimited access and unlimited storage for expanding on your dreams and ideas. The biggest thing, for most people is learning to believe in the possibility, and then following the divine guidance that comes, which leads you step by step. It's kind of like connecting the dots. The universe, when you come up with an idea and you say you want to do this, and you spend some energy investing in making this happen, then the universe gets busy. And so then it becomes like connect the dots, that child's game of connecting the dots on paper. You start where you are, wherever that beginning is. And then you go to 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And by the time you get like halfway through the page, the picture is beginning to take shape. And then you can kind of say, oh, I know what this is, or I know what I'm doing now. And you can pick up momentum. But then, like I said, too, there are some experiences that are only there to teach you lessons, to prepare you for something else. So you don't want to do something that's not working for too long, especially if you just keep doing the same thing over and over and hoping that, well, maybe this time I'll get it right. If you're working on something and it's not quite coming together, you do need to make some adjustments or changes in order to make it work. But then again, sometimes you have to step back and ask your higher self, is this the end result? This is what I'm supposed to manifest, or is this a stopping point on the way to something else? Because sometimes it's just a stopover on your way to some other destination. So biggest thing is just, you got to have that metaphysical foundation, that spiritual connection with the higher self within, because that's where all your guidance, information, ideas, inspiration, and courage and strength will come from. It comes from the God presence within, not out there. And by all means,
Yes.
please stop listening to everybody else out there telling you you can't do it. And if you have friends who aren't quite ready for spiritual prime time, and you have a hot idea, only talk to people that support you in your ability to dream, and to support you in your ability to take wild chances and do something amazing. Because when you talk to the everyday people around you who are not on the same vibrational frequency as you, they're going to start finding all the reasons and excuses why it won't work. And by the time they get through talking to you, you'll start thinking, well, maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I'm just dreaming. And who am I to think I can do something like that? Or why would I be so lucky? I mean, we get in that whole pit of self-talk instead of going, yeah, I can do this. I don't care if nobody's done it before. I'm thinking and feeling it because it's coming from within. And I see this vision. And maybe the reason why nobody else has done it is because you've been the first one to pick up the vision. So don't let anybody else's disappointments in their lives stop you from dreaming and achieving your dreams, because maybe you're supposed to be the first one. Somebody's got to be first.
Thank you for sharing that, Reverend Lynn. And I love your reminders about taking action, because for me, it doesn't really matter if I make a mistake along the way. Because I feel that you won't be able to gauge your capacity if you don't know how good you are at something and what portions you really have to refine over time. So,
Mhm. The
and
mistakes are the good part. They're the things that teach you. The successes are, those are achievements. That's after you've learned your lessons, but your mistakes, that's where you earn your stripes. It's where you get your strength and your courage. And it's where you learn to believe in yourself. They bring you confidence. So, value your mistakes and use them the way they were intended, to be teachers, to be lessons, to be blessings, and not punishments. That's part of the reason why we don't learn from our mistakes, because we think that the universe, the world's against me, people hate me, nothing ever goes right. All that, trauma serves to undermine your ability to do what you need to do. There's a proverb, I believe it's in the book of Proverbs in the Bible, and I think it goes, fall down 7, get up 8, or fall down
mm,
6, get up 7, something like that. And I had heard that it was one of those things that Confucius says, a Chinese proverb. But I actually found out when I was doing some research a while back that it comes from the Bible, from the book of Proverbs. And it's just a simple fall down 7, get up 8, I think is the way it goes. Which means no matter how many times you fall down, keep getting up. As long as you get up one more time than you fall down, you win.
awesome. I love it because, so many things happened to me while taking the bachelor's degree. And even right now, I still continuously go through it because I find so much value in it and
Yeah, yeah.
motivation, especially when you feel that you don't, you're not in the zone at the moment. And a lot of people are commenting. Coco was saying, she's asking if you're in YouTube or your Facebook, Reverend Lynn, for your videos. And Dr. Rowe commented, inspiration comes from God's presence within.
Mm-hmm.
Jane
And I
loved
am
what
on
you.
YouTube. I haven't been taking care of my YouTube channel recently, and I've been thinking about it. But yes, I'm on YouTube, and very soon I'm gonna start producing some new content.
Awesome. And Jane was saying, yes, take advantage of the first ideas. Reverend Shirley mentioned, I love that you value your mistakes. Thank you, Reverend Lynn. And value your mistakes from Dr. Rose. So it's really good that you guys are responding with our interview. And another thing about taking action for me, Reverend Lynn, is because in one of your meditations, I don't know if you remember it because you do this monthly meditation in IMM.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people would ask me every now and then, where do you get the courage to actually do the stuff that you're doing online now? And then I was just going back to the meditation, and then I was telling myself, because like you mentioned, when you finish the bachelor's degree, you don't really know what's going to happen, but you have to keep taking the steps forward because that's how you actually learn and refine over time. So please talk more about it because other people are still getting all the courage to, do something with their practice.
Well, it's like most successful celebrities will tell you just before they walked on stage, they were backstage throwing up in a bucket because they were so nervous. You don't ever, or at least I haven't really ever gotten to the point of being totally at ease and comfortable when I'm about to do something online. or in an interview or on a radio show or teaching, there's always a little bit of nervousness, and I kind of think that's a good thing because it helps to keep you on your toes and helps to it means you care, that you are willing to feel a little uncomfortable because you're trying to present and give your best. And for me, it's like I don't accept anything less for me. If I can't go into a situation like this and be helpful and informative, then I don't want to do it. As far as the career thing with metaphysics is concerned, I'm going to say, okay, let's put it this way. When I first started the group, which was 10 years ago, the IMM group, many of us were graduates and what have you, and we've been around. I mean, school had been around 50 years by that time or somewhere around in there anyway, but we were struggling quite a bit with trying to turn our metaphysical dreams into income producing activities. Part of it was because the world wasn't really ready for us back then. There was still a lot of misunderstandings and mistrust. And if you think, people are saying crazy things about metaphysicians now, you should have heard it back then. Just 2 years ago, you would be shot down, and some people would want to have you, exiled because you sounded like you were crazy. Well, in the last 10 years, things have improved significantly. In the last 5 years, things have gotten even that much better. So for those of you who are trying to build careers, the point I want to make for you is, if you think it's still difficult to get your business off the ground, it's because you're letting your fears and your ego get in the way. Because difficult was what it was years ago. Now it's easier, but like any new business or career you're trying to start, even if you went into school and came out, a medical doctor with licenses and all that stuff, you're still going to be... you're still going to have to find, a way to build a business, set up a practice, and go through all of that. But right now, with the way things are going, and with the Ascension event coming, people are waking up in droves, and people are looking for energy healers and metaphysical coaches and spiritual advisors, and people that can help explain what's going on, people that can help coach them into their own path and figuring out what do they need to do, and how can they follow this awakening that they're feeling and that they don't quite understand. So for those of us who are in school or coming out of school, who are now out in the industry, out in the field, looking for ways to include our metaphysics in our careers, you can. Sometimes you may have to take a regular job working for another organization or something like that, where you can either build your business slowly, part-time, like at night or on weekends, or you can work in an organization that may be related to what you are trying to do, and then kind of use it as an apprenticeship until you can build up your own clientele and step out on your own. But your chances of being successful as a metaphysical practitioner now is so much better than it used to be. And the good news is it's going to get better because people are in search. I spend probably 50% of the readings that I do at the Psychic Center, and maybe even more, are people asking something. My life has changed, my life is flipped upside down, or the pandemic ended and I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something different. I need a new career. What's my path? I feel like I'm here to do something, but I don't know what. And so a lot of the readings are these people wanting to step into their purpose and do the work they were here to do. And that generally means going to school and learning something different than you learned in college, or any other school for that matter, because they don't teach it in academic institutions. You have to go to some kind of university like ours or some other school where they're teaching metaphysics. But you will find more opportunities coming ahead for the metaphysical professional. And a lot of it will be opportunities for you to set up your own businesses so you don't have to get a JOB. It's just going to take a little more time, and you have to. We're still kind of setting up the mold. We're still creating pathways and setting up templates for what this means. So have faith, have courage, and be patient, but don't give up, because you're going to be in demand more and more as time progresses. And I don't mean like years from now. I mean the demand's going to increase exponentially over the next 2 to 3 years for people like us.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Reverend Lynn. I find so much value in it. And Jane was saying, scared and excited. It never feels like the right time. You just have to have courage and take action.
There is
Coco
no
was
such
saying,
thing as the right time. The only time you have is now.
yeah, and Coco was saying the world needs metaphysics. It's healing. Heal yourself. Heal the world. Heal the world one human at a time. And Reverend Shirley said, yes, a minister mentioned or said rather, always keep 25% of of nervousness so you can keep the ego in place.
Yeah, it gives you that kind of gives you the edge. A teacher of mine, one of my first teachers that taught me how to speak in front of a room, um, told me one time, because I told him, I said, I'm so nervous, I got all these butterflies in my stomach. And he stood up, kind of like snapped to attention. He said, tell those butterflies to fly in formation and get out there and do your stuff. And I'm
Awesome.
like, what? He said, tell them, fly in formation. He said, tell them, butterflies, fly in formation. So I did. And it worked. And I have been
Awesome.
doing it ever since. And yes, it works.
Beautiful.
What happens is you don't lose the energy of the nervousness, but you don't get the fluttering so much. So you can relax and just concentrate on using the energy in positive ways.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that, Reverend Lynn, especially you emphasizing that metaphysics will be something that's going to be more needed in the world. And I
Mhm.
actually share the same perspective with you because the pandemic is proof of it. And even I myself, as a metaphysical practitioner, I find so much value being around metaphysical circles. When someone leads a meditation, I want to be part of it. Not because I want to facilitate, but because I want to experience the spiritual food that I get out of meditation. And it's something that I want everybody to realize because, you know, people go to University of Metaphysics for personal use. Sometimes they don't end up using it to serve others, but just to be around a metaphysical circle to renew their energy, maintain their sanity.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big
I
one.
mean, that's a big one actually. And at the same time, you know, with everything that's happening right now, especially Reverend Lynn, I want you to expand more on this because mental health is actually a big deal right now in the Philippines and worldwide. A lot of people are organizing mental health awareness, what modalities to use, and I myself have benefited a lot from meditation dynamics and the monthly meditation that you do.
Oh,
So
thank you.
um, you're welcome. And I truly appreciate it because here in the Philippines, it's a very primitively understood concept because people think that when you talk about mental health, you're talking about the brain.
Yeah, and
So,
that's been that's been the thoughts and the belief generally around the world since way back when. We are beginning to the Western, some of the more progressive countries like America and maybe Canada are much further along. I'm not even sure that the UK is approaching mental health the way they should, because with the royal family, Meghan Markle was complaining about they ignored her request for help when she was suffering from postpartum depression, and Diana suffered from eating disorders and other emotional disorders that she talked about. And after she got killed, then Prince Harry was suffering from depression because of her loss. And when you think about what, if the royal family can't even get access to the help that they need, what's going on for the common citizen, where they aren't able to, they don't have the same resources. So, but the thing
yes.
is, mental health, there's various facets, I guess, or you could say levels when it comes to mental health, and especially when it comes to our perspective on how we can contribute to helping. There are some mental conditions that really do need the assistance of a therapist, like a psychologist or psychiatrist, and are beyond the scope of the healing that we can do as metaphysical ministers or energy healers. But for the most part, most emotional conditions, and I guess maybe you should separate them from emotional conditions and mental conditions, because there are some mental conditions, especially when we get into those areas where, people get into therapy for years for, maybe they're violent, or maybe they're schizophrenic, or in some cases extreme bipolar and stuff like that, and they may need the help of a professional because there may be a need to prescribe medications in the process. But for other things like depression, most cases of depression, um, and some other situations where we're dealing with chemical imbalances that create the sadness in the heart, in the mind, and in the spirit. For those kinds of situations, energy healing like EFT or tapping, a lot of people know it as tapping, and Reiki and other energy healing, like healing touch and stuff like that, those those kinds of situations are great for people like us. And we don't, in most states, we don't need licenses to practice, although that's kind of changing a little bit. There are organizations like, some of the traditional medical institutions like the Mayo Clinic and cancer treatment centers and some other places like that are starting to let their nurses work with people, and they are training them in Reiki. And some of them are training, taking classes for tapping. But even with that, we have several students in our group that have gotten involved with hospitals, working like with energy healing for some of the patients. They go in and do a treatment like any other therapist. Chaplains, hospices, massage centers. Those are all places where an energy professional can work with clients and not have to, go chasing down careers or opening businesses. You can, rent a room at somebody else's business. Like, I remember some years ago, Massage Envy, they have massage therapists, but I remember this place I went to in Costa Mesa years ago. They had a Reiki practitioner who rented a room from the center, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing massage, this person did Reiki. Um,
Amazing.
in some states, and I don't know about the Philippines, but in some states they're starting to regulate, or at least try to regulate, the energy healers, because they're finding that we are, well, we're not regulated, but then there's not much to regulate when you figure Reiki, EFT, and energy healing. You're using your God-given gift of spiritual energy. It's not like you're injecting people with medicines or doing anything that can alter. We got kicked off. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it just depends on what kind of practice you want. And of course, if you want to do counseling and coaching, that's even simpler, because all you need to do is start building your clientele, and you can do that in any number of ways. I use Reiki and my tarot reading to draw in a lot of my clients for coaching and counseling. So it just depends. You can dovetail them off of each other.
Thank you for sharing those, Reverend Lyn, and very valuable information, especially for people who are just starting their careers in metaphysics. I learned so much, Reverend Lyn. Thank you so much for your time. And I
Thank you
know
for
it's,
having me.
yeah, thank you so much. And I know that a lot of people would like to work with you. So if they want to find you, where shall they go?
Well, they can, probably the easiest way would be to email me at Talk with Lyn. That's TALK WITHLYN at
Mhm.
gmail.com.
Awesome.
And they
And
can just email me there or find me on Facebook. My Facebook page is called Crystals, Angels, and Tarot. Pretty simple.
awesome. So is that just no spaces, crystals, angels, and uh,
Facebook, yeah, it's separate words. Crystals, Angels, and Tarot on Facebook.
awesome. So anyway, Reverend Lynn, before we end, I always ask my guests to, share just one perspective that you want us to practice immediately because learning without action is incomplete for me.
Give them one. Say that again.
What's that one perspective you want to leave with me and the rest of the viewers?
Okay.
Because learning without action is actually incomplete.
Well, that pretty much is it. I mean, you said it yourself. If you don't take action, nothing can happen. We are co-creators with spirit, with the universe. And when you're a co-creator, it means, or co-anything, you got to do your part. And
Mhm.
so, as much as we affirm, visualize, pray for, and all the things that we do energetically to bring our heart's desire into form, we still have to do our part. And that can take any number of forms of whether you have to go, create something, start a business, find a job, write a resume or whatever. And in some cases, it may mean that you got to build a business, but in other cases, it could be as simple as um, creating the right resource connection so you meet the right person that just happens to come to you and you get in this conversation and find out that you're looking for what they're offering and boom, that's all you had to do was make a contact. And
Yeah.
sometimes people will shy away from it. Oh, I need to call so and they never call. Or I need to go down here and talk to this person and they never go. Or they write all these affirmations and do all this work and what have you, but they don't take the next step of trying to get out there. Like, say for instance, when I started working for Psychic Center, I was thinking about it, and then I happened to be driving with my roommate to the bead store. We passed the Crystal Magic crystal store, and in the window next door there was, new Psychic Center, and they had just been open like 2 months. And I had to get the phone number and I had to call her. Took me 3 weeks to finally get up the courage to call her because I had never really worked with the public like that before, so I was a little insecure. But because I didn't take action for 3 weeks,
Mhm.
it meant that I couldn't start for a
Mhm.
month. So had I taken action when I first saw the sign, I could have started
Mhm.
earlier. So I did take action, but I was a little slow. So I didn't beat myself up. I just went ahead and followed through. So that's my message to you. Instead of beating yourself up, oh, I didn't do that. And oh my goodness, I'm not worth it. And no, go make the phone call. Just get over yourself. And okay, I haven't done it for 3 weeks, but I'm doing it right now. And pick up your phone and make that phone call. So take
Thank you
action.
so much, Reverend Lynn. It's such a beautiful thing to remind people of, especially your 44 years of experience is actually very amazing. I love people who are very dedicated to their work and their craft. And it's funny that you mentioned that it took you 3 weeks to actually do it because for me, every time I see you answer people's questions in the group, I know that there's something about the way you explain things that's always comes from a different level of wisdom. Maybe it's because of the years of working on yourself. And I know that I'm not the only student who's benefited so much from all the work that you have done. In fact, Reverend Shirley is here and she's also honoring you and your work. And so as
Thank
the rest of your
you.
students, we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you. So we want to know that we're very grateful for all the work that you're doing for the university and more power to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Many blessings, love, and light to your listeners. And I appreciate you having me on your show.
Yes, thank you so much. We had so much fun. And, to the rest of our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. To my colleagues in University of Metaphysics, thank you for joining us this evening. I know a lot of you are watching from the States, and one thing that I truly love about Reverend Lyn's reminders is to, be easy on yourself, especially when it comes to learning, refining, and being easy on ourselves when it comes to making mistakes, because that's how we actually learn and grow. And remember to take one perspective that you can from this talk and make sure to take action immediately, because that's where we make the results. So, over time that I've been doing a lot of interviews, a lot of metaphysical consultants or practitioners would always remind the audience about very same principles, affirming, visualizing, but ultimately taking action, because it's not enough to bring our heart's desires into reality without action. So put things in perspective, because your perspective shapes your reality. Satnam, everyone, and have fun.